Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. I hail from San Francisco. And if you wanted to tweet about me or tweet with me, my account is, I'll just back up one, is J. Owyang, J-O-W-Y-A-N-G, my first initial last name. So I want to tell you about a recent trip I took to Denmark. Any Danish folks? Danish blood in the room? Anybody? A few over there? And I went to Copenhagen, and I got to visit the palace. And I got to learn about this gentleman here. Meet King Frederick VII. Now, King Fred, he was born a king from a long succession of kings, but he was at risk to lose it all by losing his head, because all across Europe, there were revolutions. Kings and queens were losing their heads as they fought these revolutions. Now, King Fred had one of two choices. The first choice is to try to figure out how to fight this revolution and maybe lose his head, or two, to collaborate with them. What choice did he make? Now, I'll tell you about that in just a minute. But I want to talk about the customer revolution that's happening right here. And this tees up nicely what Peter and Andy were talking about. But this next revolution isn't just the one we've been talking around social. The next phase, and my job is to look at the next things that are coming, is about the sharing revolution. Now, if you've seen the cover of The Economist here, it's pictured right front in mainstream media, or maybe on Forbes magazine, the CEO of Airbnb. What is the sharing revolution? It's when people use social and mobile apps, to Andy's point, not just to share media and ideas, but they're sharing goods and services with each other. Now, what does that mean to us, the many corporations, small businesses, medium businesses, and large super companies that are here? It means that customers can buy a product once and share it many times with each other and not have to buy again. That's what it means. It means we could have potential lost revenues and even lost jobs. Now, let's take a look at how this works out in the structure on the phases of the internet. The first phase of the internet, which we could just blanket call, is the internet era. And this is when a small group of people could publish on websites using either simple tools like WordPress or write in their own ways and using HTML. But it was limited to people who had that technical knowledge. This is a great time for corporations to create corporate websites and craft what's called a brand experience. What does a brand experience sound like? It sounds like this. I'm the brand, I talk, you listen. That's a brand experience. Then the next phase came, and Andy teed up all of those revolutions that are happening. And we are here today. We call that the social media age, when anybody can actually say whatever they want to on Twitter or Facebook. They can share their ideas without having technical knowledge. And this created a change effect as power shifted to those who published. Let's see a show of hands. How many of you have adopted social for your business? Okay, nearly the entire room. We're here today, right? So people are sharing their ideas and media in the social media age. The next phase, and this is what I'm going to spend the next period talking about, and on my blog and in my research, is what we call the collaborative economy age. And this is when people use the same exact tools, social, mobile, and apps, but they're sharing goods and services. And it means there's a change in the power as the crowd starts to become a company. Today's theme is about becoming your customer company. I'm telling you that's not far enough. I'm telling you the next phase is the crowd is becoming a company. So I conducted research. I saw this trend coming. And I saw a similar trend in 2005 when I worked in corporate at Hitachi. I said, oh God, this social media thing's coming. Our customers publish price lists of our products, and it radically disrupted our sales teams because There were different prices depending on how much money different clients had. And they shared all of that. I said, oh, geez, this is coming. And I saw that, and then I studied that. I see the same thing coming now. So in this research, which is right in front of you, everybody here has a printed copy of this report, and it's available online for the whole world at no cost, is we pose this question, and I will answer it today for all of us. What role do corporations play if people don't need them? Now, the good news is there is a solution, and we call this the collaborative economy. Let's define what it is. We call this an economic model where there's shared ownership and shared access between the people, startups, and corporations. It means your customers own part of your product, and it means they want to share your product or even borrow it from them. The interesting finding is that the only way for corporations and companies, from small business to large, to participate in this collaborative economy is you do have to let go. But if you do it, you will gain more. So let's take a look at a few examples. And the way we'll look at this is to see whether or not this really matters. And the question that we posed in the research is this really a business disruption? Well, I'm here to tell you that sharing isn't anything new. In fact, our moms told us and taught us how to share. Those who shared at school got better things. Those who share in the workplace sometimes can get better things too, depends how their corporate culture is. But think about in your own family life or in a societal life. Those who share often are in a better situation. Sharing's not new, but now it can happen with greater velocity and scale, and it's not limited to any physical boundaries. We can share goods and services very quickly. So let's imagine that we're going to go on a business trip, and I'm going to go on a business trip with my friend Dan, one of the co-founders of Magnet 360. And Dan, where do you want to go? Idaho. We're going to go to Idaho, but we're going to tap into the crowd, and we're not going to buy anything from any corporation during this business trip. Ready? Okay. Now, to get to Idaho, we don't need to use a formal cab company or even a formal bus. We could actually tap into the crowd and get somebody from a local neighborhood in our area to drive us. Meet Lyft, L-Y-F-T. Has anybody seen a Lyft car around town? Okay, a couple hands. They have these pink mustaches that are given to them once they've been vetted. And it means they can act like a taxi, even though they don't have the official city medallions to do so. Some cities have claimed that they're illegal, but it's happening. They're unable to stop it because they take the mustache off. So we're on our trip, and we get to Idaho. Now, rather than stay at a Marriott, Hyatt, or Hilton, we could stay at somebody else's house using a tool like Airbnb and stay at somebody's local guest house. Dan will get one, I can get one. We can even have guest rooms. It means we can do this without the corporation, and we're using social and mobile. Now, our company is going well. You know, whatever Dan touches turns to gold, 400% growth. But it means that we actually want to grow the company faster. So we want to get funding. But rather than go to the bank, we don't have to go to Bank of America or Wells Fargo or local credit union. We can get money from the crowd. Meet Lending Club, where it's peer-to-peer lending. There's also Prosper, and actually Kiva's in the room. Raise your hand, Kiva, wherever you went. Back there, over there, great. So that's an opportunity for people to get money from each other rather than a formal institution. Now, our little business venture is going well, and we want to staff it. But rather than being limited to the staff of folks in Idaho or even in the general area, we can staff very quickly using tools like Odesk, TaskRabbit, Crowdflower, Elance, and activate a workforce on demand from around the globe. We need to feed some of these people who are in our local place, so we can actually use local sites like Feastly, which means anybody in a neighborhood in Idaho can have us over for dinner, take some dollars from us, and give us a local home-cooked meal. They're acting like a restaurant, but we don't have to go to one. What about office space? This is liquid space. We can rent a place to work from another company, but without having to use a traditional property manager. We can rent from a company that has excess space without going to a traditional company. And two more examples. We need to stock our office. We need to stock our houses with products and goods. Guess what? We don't have to go to Target or Best Buy to do that. We can get it from Yerdle. Yerdle works with Facebook.com, and it's founded by the former chief strategy officer of Walmart. And the mission of Yerdle is for people to share and gift goods that are just lying around in inventory rather than having to buy them. Another similar example is one called Stokebox, where anybody who has kids like Scott, he can get a box of children's goods for age 5 or age 7, boys or girls, for $5 shipping costs. And when he's done with it, he can ship that off to another person, and he doesn't have to buy. In all of those examples, B2B, B2C, transportation, hospitality, restaurant, CPG, retail, I showed you how the crowd can get what they want. Dan and I can get what we want, and we don't have to spend a lot of money. And we don't have to use traditional companies or corporations. Is that disruptive? Why don't we put some numbers behind it? I'll give you one example. We'll just do the first vertical. Forbes magazine says that the average car is worth $30,000. UC Berkeley did a study and found out that a properly shared car could reduce the need for 9 cars off the road. That's a $270,000 opportunity loss to Detroit, Toyota, and Honda. Now, it's just not the car cost. What about the car loan? That's easily more than that value. But what about car insurance? What about gas? What about bridge tolls, parking, car washes, dealerships? What did I miss? I could easily draw up a financial argument that one properly shared car is $1 million worth of ecosystem change. That's one car. What about 100 cars? What about 100,000 cars? What about 100 million cars? So in our research, we posed, is this a disruption? And we absolutely believe this is a business disruption. Now, the next question you're probably asking is, how long is this going to be here? Is this just a fad? Who really uses it? Is it going away? So we posed that question, that second question, in our research. And we found out that there's over 12 different factors that are actually causing this to happen. But I boiled it down to 3 things, and you'll see this in the report as well. The first one is the societal factors. 2 is the economic and financial ones. And 3 is the enablement of technology. Let's go through each. First, societal factors. I'd like to share something personal. I have become a conscientious or a conscious consumer. I'm very careful about what I buy, and I try to share things. So I'm starting to live in this collaborative economy. I use Airbnb when I can. I've let people rent my car right off the front curb of my house using Relay Ride. And I try to not consume things. In fact, in the last 2 months, I can count on one hand the physical goods I've actually bought. That doesn't include food or gas or the normal consumables. I know what I bought, and I'm trying not to buy too much. Now, I don't think I'm alone. In fact, there's a whole generation of youth that have no choice, saddled with college debt, and this generation grew up on the internet, which the default behavior is sharing. These college graduates, this is their natural behavior. In fact, this study from Shareable magazine, which was done a few years ago, said that 75% of those, they predicted that they would continue to share physical objects and spaces over the next 5 years. And if anybody's been to Europe or Asia, you'll see that these behaviors of sharing goods and services have been around for a long time. It's not new. Anybody who lives in New York, she's from New York. Sharing has been rolled out, even from the mayor, Bloomberg, rolled out sharing bikes called city bikes. This trend is sweeping across cities, countries, and will impact corporations. So it means that people want to share goods. And I'll tell you one story. I interviewed for this research one young executive who's making over 6 figures, but he's not even 30. He's a banker in Silicon Valley. And he said he loves to live a life of luxury, staying at fancy hotels and driving nice cars. But he said, you know what, Jeremiah? I don't want to own luxury. I just want access to it. I just want to borrow it or rent it on demand. I don't need to own it. I just want access to it. The second factor is the economic factors. And that little curve that you saw represents the people on this planet when I was born and when I'm in my 70s and might be an old man. When I was born, there was about 4 billion people on this planet. If I live to be that old, the experts predict there will be over 9 billion people, almost doubling. It means that Earth's population and our demand for resources are going to only increase, but our actual resources stay fixed. We know this, it's simple math. So it means that when people buy something, they might want to activate it. Anybody here have a storage shed or a storage unit that they put things into, or have a spare garage filled with stuff? All of that stuff can be activated and turned into revenue, ongoing revenue, selling it or renting it out to others when not needed. And as population increases, this demand for the economic sense to matter will only increase. It's no surprise that we saw Airbnb and these car-sharing services bubble up quickly around 2009 and 10, right when we had that severe economic downturn. To those locations, people were struggling to stay in their homes, so one way they could do it is rent out a room, and maybe even rent out a house. This made a lot of sense for that period of time. It triggered that economic change. And the last reason is the technology enablement. Technology makes it so easy. How many of you have shared something on a social network, Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn, in the last 24 hours? Way over half of the room. So you were already sharing media and ideas. The next phase is to share goods and services. On the planet, there's 87 phones per 100 people. Granted, some people have 2, maybe even 3 phones in some countries. And when I looked at 200 of these sharing startups, I did analysis of them and I broke them down into their business models, how they work, which industries. I did find out that 75% of them are pinned off social networks, and around 50% of them use Facebook Connect. It means that this sharing revolution is pinned off the social media revolution, which is pinned off the internet. The last stat I'll share is there's been a tremendous amount of VC funding into this space. When I looked at those 200 startups, I found out that 37% of them have been funded. On average, $29 million was the average. In net total, that was $2 billion of funding into this brand new category that's only been around for 3 years. So the question is this movement going to go away? Is it a fad? And based upon population only increasing, people are already sharing around the globe, and technology is already here, it's my call that this is an unstoppable movement. And the only way you can stop this is if you stop the internet. So what do we do? I made a point that this is a business disruption. I've made a point that it's not going away. Well, maybe we can learn something from King Frederick VII of Denmark. And he saw that there was a revolution coming at his golden gilded gates. And he had one of 2 choices: fight them, maybe lose his head, or 2, try to collaborate with them. And he chose the latter. He chose to collaborate with these revolutionaries and work with them. And what he did is he came in front of his gates and he created a new constitution. This is an image of that that gave the power to the people. And he set up a 3-department representative democracy, but it still had a monarchy written into it. So he built a system to collaborate with them. What happened to King Fred? I'll tell you about him in a minute. But let's get back to us. The opportunity for us as business people, as business owners, is to join the collaborative economy. Just like we've joined the internet, just like we've joined social media, just like we've joined mobile, but now we also join this movement. And I'm excited to present to you, this report has only been around for 6 weeks. This is really new information. Is you have the opportunity now to join the collaborative economy value chain. And I hope this image becomes a foundation for your business planning, because it offers an opportunity for new business models for you to tap into. Now, along this triangle, at the very top, you see that there's products. On the bottom right is services. And on the bottom left is marketplaces. And it's a very simple change that we have to do. What we have to do is turn products into services. Services become marketplaces. And marketplaces build your products. And I'll walk through each of these phases. I'll define what it is, and I'm going to give you examples of what innovative corporations are doing right now today, real-world examples, and I'll leave you with a few insights after each of these 3. Ready? All right, let's take a look at that first one. Your products have to become services, and we call this business opportunity a company as a service. And it means if you sell goods, or if you sell goods and products, it means that you don't just sell them, but now you make them available for rent, on demand, subscription, membership, or even gifted. Seems strange? It's not strange. This is an old business model. Companies like Netflix and Salesforce, DVDs on demand, and software as a service have been around for over 10 years. This already exists, but those have mainly been in the cloud. So let's take a look at some other examples. Who's being disrupted by car sharing services? Lyft, Relay Ride, Zipcar, Uber, Sidecar. There's a number of car sharing services. And they're disrupting, obviously, car rental companies, but more importantly, people that sell cars, like Toyota and BMW. I had a chance to spend time with one of the chief strategy officers at BMW, and he talked about that they already predict and they know that by year 2050, the world's cities will be saturated with cars, and you can't fit any more cars into cities. And they know by that time they have to make their cars available on demand. You should be able to walk up to a car, and it will open for you automatically using your mobile device. It'll know who you are and configure the seats, and you get in and drive, get to your destination, leave it, and go to your next thing. You won't own a car, you'll just have access to it. So to start that transition, both BMW and Toyota now rent cars from their dealership lots in San Francisco. This just happened a few months ago. This is a reality. They're already testing this new business model out. You can walk up to the dealership and purchase that car, but on a rental basis, and even if you wanted to buy it afterwards, after testing it, you could. But what if you sell consumable goods? What about shavers? Meet Dollar Shave Club. They send gentlemen, perhaps ladies too, new set of shavers every month, and you get this on an ongoing membership. Now, the upside for Dollar Shave Club is they have a long-term agreement with their customers. Talk about loyalty. Stop trying to sell one product over and over and over after every single season. They go to the store and see many other shavers. Sell one, but sell it many different times. Another example is beauty as a service. Meet Beauty Box. For $12 a month, you get a plethora of different items, makeup, perfume, all for your trial and leisure based upon the season. And you don't have to go to the store. Beauty Box. or high-end luxury. You can rent these $3,000 purses for $200 or $300 for a few weeks. If you're into style and fashion and you want to have the latest fashions, but you don't necessarily need to own it, Bag, Borrow, and Steal allows you to rent purses with the opportunity to buy it and then sell it back if you wanted to. They even offer a value-added service of cleaning the handbags, purchase, clutches, hobos, and I'm trying to learn them all. Did I get it? Okay, good. I got an approval. And you can send them back for a cleaning service. So they're adding value-added services on top of their goods. And the last one, this one is the most innovative I've seen, is Peugeot, a French car company, is now moving into the mobility space. And instead of just selling cars, they're selling memberships. Memberships to what? Memberships to mobility. There's a new club they created called the MU Club. And if you purchase this membership, it means that you have access to not just their cars, but also electric cars and vans and car sharing and local city buses, and get ready for this one, and bikes. Everything that you need to be mobile, you now have a subscription, a membership to get around town. It means that this company's changed the value prop from just selling things that have four wheels to trying to be that mobility solution provider. And this is called company as a service. So what are the 3 insights to remember from company as a service? This is for companies that sell goods and products. It means that you must now consider making them available on demand. I interviewed one software company that enables software subscriptions called Zora, Z-U-O-R-A. It's in the report, and they are an app exchange partner for Salesforce. This software already exists. You just have to tap it into your inventory and then your customer relationship management software. Second is, rather than sell a product once, change your mindset. Sell it 100 times. Don't sell it once, sell it 1,000 times. And number 3, the way that you activate this, your actual pieces you move into your business plan, is focused on rentals, subscriptions, and memberships. Company as a service. Ready for the next one? It gets more complicated and the investments increase as we move around the triangle. But the payoffs get greater as we move around. Let's do this next one. And this is when you have services, they now must become marketplaces. And we call this motivate a marketplace. What does motivate a marketplace look like? Well, the verbs change from service. Instead, corporations, companies, businesses must enable reselling, co-ownership, swapping, lending, and even gifting of products. So who's being disrupted by Airbnb? Let's hear some names. Marriott. Who else? Restaurants, right? All hotels. I agree with you. In fact, what these hotel companies are doing, whoever said Marriott was spot on, these hotel companies are funding the lobbyists who are working with policy providers at federal and state and city level to fight Airbnb. Airbnb is declared illegal, sometimes in Amsterdam because it goes on and off, Berkeley, as I understand it, and recently in New York. But they still can't stop it. So Airbnb, when they were in Amsterdam, when it was declared illegal, they said, fine, we're not going to rent out homes. But you can stay in their homes using our website and tips are accepted. You can't stop this. And even in New York, you'd only be fined if you were caught. Granted, if it's illegal, that's illegal behavior. I don't endorse illegal behavior. But what I'm suggesting is you can't stop it. But instead, there is a business opportunity for Marriott and every other hotel company, is to embrace and collaborate with it. Here's the business opportunity that we found in the research, that Marriott could actually certify that guest house here in Idaho And when Dan and I go to Idaho, we would know this is at Marriott, some level of quality of service. And this owner of this guest house would know that Dan and I are from the loyalty program and are trusted members. And Marriott could sell those awesome soaps and lotions to the owner and even sell concierge and cleaning services. The opportunity is that corporations have a play here and they can add new value, but it means they have to enable your community to become your marketplace. Let's give an example. That is a fictitious one. A company called ScottyVest. Anybody know ScottyVest? I wear ScottyVest 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. ScottyVest is for travelers that love high-tech gear, and it puts all your stuff away in a hidden way, and you don't look like a dorky tourist, basically. You can have your cell phone here, and your passport's tucked inside so it won't be ripped off. And it's a wonderful thing, and they thread the wires through, and you can have your earbuds. Dan, you'd be a great guy to get. In fact, I'm going to have Scott send you one. I actually will. Big. Got it. Big. So ScottyVest, and I interviewed Scott because he sells apparel, and his margins are low, right? These are really tight. I said, would you ever participate in this marketplace? And he said, it's a little bit hard. I'm certainly not going to clean it. I don't want to deal with used goods. But instead what he did is from his own corporate.com. You can go to scottybest.com. You'll see on the rotating banner that they actually point to their marketplace on eBay. They don't have a partnership with eBay, but they're saying if you want to find gently worn ScottyVests on eBay, maybe you just want to trial out the product. Only 6 people in this room out of 300 knew what it was. But now that I've told you, you could actually get a used one from somebody on eBay and activate and access a new market. Remember that example I showed you of Bag, Borrow, and Steal, those $3,000 purses available? Nordstrom should be doing that. Bloomingdale's should be doing that. You should make those high-end products available to a younger market that's just on their up and up. One of the great examples that I've seen is one called, it's a weird name, Swapping. And this is a UK retailer who makes apparel. And they're becoming very green and conscious because they know that apparel is a massive contributor to landfills. So they set up this program called Swapping. And you can bring in your old used clothes and leave them there in a bin, and you might be eligible for a gift card. And they're encouraging their consumers to think good about recycling their clothes, and these clothes will go to people in emerging markets. I call them opportunity markets. Perhaps the most notable example is when Patagonia, who believes in sustainability and being eco-friendly, they partnered with eBay in this formal relationship called the Common Threads. And this is a program where Patagonia said, consumers, don't buy anything. Really, don't. But if you need to buy, try to buy it used here with our partners on eBay. And if you really love it, come to our store and buy it new. They actually said that in their marketing. It's pretty innovative. So this is already starting to happen with a few innovative companies that are motivating a marketplace. So 3 insights from Motivate a Marketplace. Companies must enable your customers to resell, swap, and gift. The natural reaction is not to do that. But what I'm suggesting is you foster a new business experience. You're enabling peer-to-peer relationships. You enable your customers to activate other customers. They're going to do it anyway. Why not do it around your brand? Why not do it on your own platform? Why not do it on your own .com? Why not do it on your own salessites.com or even on extended sites or groups experience? And lastly, if you enable these new peer-to-peer relationships, it means you can extract new revenues from it. You can take a cut from the transaction. You can offer new value-added services. There's a lot of new things that you can do if you enable this new set of transactions. And this is called Motivate a Marketplace. Let's do this last one. In the collaborative economy value chain, it gets more complicated, but the payoff is bigger. And this one we call Provide a Platform. And in Provide a Platform, it means that the crowd becomes your company. which is tightly wound to the theme of today, a customer company. But I want to go even further. It means that the crowd is augmenting every single business function in your company. Every business function. And it sounds like this: ideation with the crowd, funding, maybe building and developing products. What about if the crowd distributed your products, marketed, sold it, and even shared the revenue with you? In this phase, the crowd becomes the company. Provide a platform means that you give them a set and an area. It means you still have some control. You define what these parameters are. You don't give up all control. You set the parameters on how far and when this will go. And it means that we have to focus on that co word, C-O. We all know this work. We're all employees who work at a company. And this word is tightly wound around what we call today as collaboration, which is common in nearly all of these tools that you're going to look at in the breakouts and in the tracks and even in the exploratory sessions. But now I want to think about adding that co-word in front of all of these words in addition. Co-fund, co-design, develop, produce, deliver, store, and even co-market. Everything in your company has a co in front of it. The crowd is part of that. Let me give you some examples. A lot of this is happening in the startup space now, and that's good. It means that this will also be replicated in enterprise and company software. The example I love to give is when Mark Benioff wrote a post called the Facebook Imperative. Has anybody ever seen that or heard about that? That was on TechCrunch. And that was, I don't know, 4 years ago. And right after that, Salesforce launched an enterprise version of Facebook called Chatter. Enterprise software copies what happens in consumer software. I've seen this trend over and over and over and over and again, and it's about to happen again. So you ready to see what's about to happen? Let's take a look at the startups. Let's talk about funding. Has anybody heard of Kickstarter? Okay, about a third of the room. Kickstarter allows the crowd to fund the development of new products, goods, and sometimes media. I actually threw in a few dollars for this watch. I don't know if I'll ever see it. It's called the Pebble. And the Pebble is a digital watch. It'll connect with your Bluetooth and your phone. So you can check your emails or see or the temperature. And it's like another device. You don't have to take your phone out of your pocket. Pretty innovative stuff. We just learned Apple, Samsung, everybody else is trying to do this as well. So this is an example of the crowd co-funding on their own, and I expect to see this emerge as enterprise software in the future. And companies can allow their own customers to co-fund new products, which is a huge commitment because it means you're vested for that product. The highest form of loyalty isn't word of mouth. The highest form of loyalty is co-ownership. Marketers have it wrong. The highest form of loyalty is co-ownership. One of those few things that I bought over the last 2 months, oh, by the way, one of the great things about not buying things is when you do get something new, it feels so freaking great. I mean, I'm going to tweet about it on Facebook. I have something new. It's just a great feeling. So I went to the Nike store, and I tried on the shoes, and I have some new Nikes. And these are called the Nike ID program, where you can design it. And I got them in all black, because sometimes I like to wear them in long meetings. And I want them to look just like business shoes. I'm not wearing them today. That would be cool if they looked like that, though. So I was able to design the exact look, size, and how much padding it had. So Nike is already enabling the crowd to design it. But what about co-developing? Quirky is a site that allows the crowd to submit ideas, and a small group builds it. So imagine in your company if the crowd could submit new features and requirements, and then you help them take it to market. How about Etsy? Has anybody seen Etsy? A lot of hands. This is a form of the crowd acting like a company. Local artisans are getting together and creating unique gifts. Williams-Sonoma, that huge retail brand, their West Elm group now sells these products in their local stores. We're already starting to see that happen. But what about producing and creating products? I went to Makers Faire, and I encourage all of you to try one of these. I think there's one in Chicago. And it's a giant conference and exhibition for people that make things, people that are acting like companies. And I saw the large hall of 3D printers. There's hundreds of 3D printers. And some of them are producing plastic, as you can see here. But what I saw next was mind-blowing. They're printing concrete, and this is wood. They're printing wood. They can print out tables. You can print out cars. You can print out all types of people. This is wood with cellulose in it, and it's using leftover sawdust from reclaimed items that are being chewed up. Now with the crowd who can have 3D printers in the next few years, you can activate them to build the products on demand in their places. But how do you get those products to locations? Another startup we're seeing is called Lockitron. And this is a hardware and software device that enables a trunk of a car, a closet, a desk to be opened with your mobile phone if you've been granted access. It means for companies, I know Cargill's here, 3M's here, it means you can forward deploy your goods and products into neighborhoods and offices, and people can grab them and access them whenever they want. It means the crowd is your storage and supply chain. But how do you get those products to those locations? Co-Deliv, it already exists. This is deliv.co, and they promise to deliver goods from the crowd, from retailers to people's houses or businesses in 1 hour. Google Shopping Express just emerged in San Francisco, and they're promising the same. The crowd is starting to become the company. In the startup world, it hasn't happened fully in the enterprise space. I want to give you one last example. I had the pleasure of going to the Aspen Institute last week, and one of the guys that was invited to the roundtable is Joe Justice out of Seattle. And he created a new company called WikiSpeed. And the goal of WikiSpeed is to create new products by using the crowd. And he did an open source architecture with some parameters, and the crowd designed car parts based upon a framework. Then the crowd printed the car pieces in their garages, and they mailed them over to Joe's garage, and then he assembles the car and builds the whole carbon fiber. This is the WikiSpeed prototype. There's 10 of them. I'm going to Seattle to drive it soon. This is an example of an entire car that has been assembled and built and designed and crowdfunded all by the crowd. It's starting to happen. The crowd is becoming a company. Now, the opportunity for us is to replicate all of these startups in our companies and try to make our own platforms so our customers can fund, ideate, produce, deliver, store, and be all of those business functions in our company. So here's some insights, some final takeaways. It means that companies who activate the crowd in this collaborative economy, you can reduce your operating expenses as the crowd does some of your work. It also means you get to tap into new ideas and generate new business value. Yeah, there's some risk involved, but this is why you want to set parameters. It also means that this is the most loyal group of customers you can ever have because they're with you. They are you. They have helped co-fund, develop, and they want to sell your products. Which leads to the next thing, that in this radical future, it means that we might not be able to tell the difference between an employee and a customer. Employees and customers might be the same thing. In this really radical future, it means that the most advanced companies might outsource all business functions to the crowd. And it might mean that the most advanced company, the only thing that's left, could be an e-commerce system and a logo. And that's called provide a platform. So in its entirety, we went around the collaborative economy value chain, and we went through all models. But I want to be honest about the challenges that will be coming if and when we decide to move forward. Opposing forces. We already see governments, lobbyists, and institutions oppose this. Tax revenues are being lost because people are sharing goods, but they don't have to buy them. We're already seeing the taxi drivers, this is true, spit or rip off the mustaches off the Lyft cars in San Francisco. That's already happening. Buyers and sellers, they don't have trust between each other because this is about activating strangers to share things in most cases. And by the way, that's the biggest opportunity for a brand who has a trusted logo and an existing set of customers. This is an opportunity for us. And 3, we see too many startups in each category. There's hundreds of them and more coming, and we don't know which ones are going to stand the test of time. It's a very early market. But why would we do this? And we'll start to summarize and close things down. 4 things why this makes sense to become a customer company and be part of the collaborative economy. You're more efficient as the crowd is helping. You have a long-term relationship with your customers. New value is created between your customers that we've never done before. And because this is brand new research, 6 weeks old, it means that the folks here in the room, you have the opportunity for first mover advantage. This report's only been viewed 60,000 times on SlideShare. It's a small group of the world. You have an opportunity to lead this today. To visualize the opportunity, companies are so affixed to trying to sell a product, sell it this season, sell it next season, sell. What I'm suggesting is to look bigger into the economy at all of these transactions that you can activate that you're not doing today. And instead of just trying to sell, grab new revenues. 20% is the average cut we see startups taking. They take 20% to 10% per transaction. But imagine if you could have access to all of these transactions and you take 20% from every single transaction happening in your marketplace. I'm telling Marriott to cut Airbnb out of the picture and take all of those revenues. I'm telling Toyota to get into the car sharing space and take all those revenues. So to close things off, this is just a summary. What happened to King Fred? I'm pleased to report that King Fred is revered as a hero, a king hero. Not only did he save his country from needless bloodshed, but he gave the power to the people. But perhaps more importantly to him, he kept his head. In fact, the Danish monarchy is the second oldest monarchy in the world. It still exists. And he's revered, and his family are revered as a trusted icon that establishes trust throughout the kingdom. And the people, the crowd, the community, the economy, they take care of them, and they work together in tandem. See, King Fred, he joined the collaborative economy because King Fred gave up his throne, but he gained the kingdom. And if you want to join the collaborative economy, it means that you as a corporation must let go of your company, but you'll gain the market. I leave you with one final question. What side of history will you be on? Thank you.